Hey, it's Scott and Rita. It's our Cosmic Dialogue again. And we had a conversation beforehand, and to our 6 subscribers and us, and whoever was willing to someday join us, or whoever else is out there in the future who wants to do some of this work too, we're very happy to have you watch. So I wanted today first to do a Cosmic Dialogue in the future about what it's like now that we've realized that there's a critical time, and that this time of self-reflection for many of us, and I don't know if it's all of us, should be over, so that we can get our own self-reflection totally out of the way, so that we can actually live this purpose that is for the larger good of love and truth. And so that's just been on my heart. So I just want to start with that, I guess, and see what comes up from the future of that. So what do you think, 10 years from now?
Oh, yeah.
10 years might be, that's soon, that's quick. 10 years, and maybe that's because they say that we have 12 years to turn things around, maybe with the earth, with climate. We may have less than that with the systems that are in place. Who knows? Before some radical craziness hits, or radical wonderful breakdown hits.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll start. It's been 10 years now since Rita and I had this conversation. It's been 10 years since we first knew that there was a shift, that we needed to get past the idea that spirituality for ourselves, and for many of us, maybe not all of us, but for many of us, needed to shift from self-reflection. What does this do for me? How does this make me feel? Because we'd done it. We'd already done that. We can already see it. We needed to move past that, and into what do we do now? What is happening now? And this is also part of the Million Souls that was originated 10 years ago too, of folks who we actually, oh my gosh, and you want to talk about quitting. There was such a mass exodus of quit when this thing hit. Not only did children walk out of their classrooms, starting 10 years ago, and now it's happening in almost every day, everywhere. We quit a lot of systems. We actually created new alternative systems because we knew that then, and over these past 10 years, we have really been piling these new systems. We've been taking action so that we know that there's an impending collapse. Yeah. We see it, and it's actually happening. It's just unfolding. And we see the subtleties of how the 10 years, the impending collapse is in progress. And all the powers that be are allowing us to just sort of think this is progress, and that this is the way things are, and it's a slow devolving, but it's been happening, and we all.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
I'm feeling something really big.
Yes.
So kids were walking out of their classrooms, and we started to see that these kids who were born 10 years ago were now becoming self-actualized people at 10 years old, and they weren't having it. They are not having it. And it triggered some adults to try to oppress them to fit the old system, but they weren't going with it. And so they taught us, those of us who were willing to learn from the younger ones, they taught us the new ways. So it became easy. There was no amount of self-reflecting that was going to teach us, because we didn't get it. They get it. And all we had to do was watch and learn. And then
Exactly. Exactly. And it wasn't because so much was changing around us, and so much of like younger people and animals and nature were just responding. We had no time to just self reflect on this. We actually, those of us who are thriving or feel like we're thriving spiritually or selflessly or in this stream of love and truth, we feel we're thriving. Are the ones who actually did get out of the way so that these things could happen, so that children, I mean, in the news there was this whole, now it's forgotten, of course, about how a whole school that, how children took all of their Ritalin pills and dumped them in a river near the school. They actually like broke into the school's drug locker, and cleverly took all of the Ritalin, all of the medications and things that children were prescribed, and like had a big like thing on YouTube or the newest platforms, even the secret platforms, because YouTube was so censored. But it got viral, and we could see children 10, 11, 12 with massive actions that spurred actions globally of pharmaceuticals in rivers. Well, and sometimes I would burn them because they didn't want but like, just, we're dumping this. And they actually did, one school said, we're dumping this in the river so that you can all be affected. So we, not only are we on Ritalin, but you're on Ritalin. You're on medications, you're on everything. And we are showing this, and we're dumping this into our rivers and waterways because they're already there. And you need to feel it and see it. So it was this kind of massive, it was something that we couldn't have planned. We couldn't have planned that, and we shouldn't have.
And it turned out to be a symbolic river that, because they were in their new way of knowing, they were choosing to dump it in the river, not actually a waterway, but an energetic waterway that has always existed that we have never acknowledged. And now everybody was feeling it. Oh, it's time for a dose of Ritalin. Okay, you feel it.
And still, even to this day, it's like there's so many things that are clouded in mystery of that, because we're not part of these new generation of children. They seem to know things on a level that we don't, and all we have to do is just step aside and watch and let them do their thing. But so a lot of adults like us, we have to really think creatively too. The symbolic river, they know the symbolic river right away, but they're not teaching us. They don't want to teach us. They're like, either you get it or you don't. And so,
there's no rebelling, or, I mean, some people saw it as rebelling, but that's not what these kids are doing. They're just being, and they're not pushing against anything, because they have a knowing that steps out of that whole combative way of being.
There've been other reports of these children too, of art classes being just this non-compliance in schools, this creative, beautiful display of unabandoned non-compliance in learning, in self-expression. Concerts gone awry where teachers basically have to accept the fact that these children will actually direct their own learning regardless of the environment they place them in, regardless of the curriculum that's forced upon them, regardless of any kind of authority threatening them. It's really apparent. And so that's actually caught on too. The tough thing is to watch, to watch those who actually sacrifice themselves, not out of being victims, but they actually are willing to kind of just be very self-sacrificial, quitting things, quitting their jobs, quitting these these systems. Even 10 years ago, the rise of like nomadic RV living was starting to make a trend, but now it's it's almost like they have their own country inside our country. And it's amazing the systems that have been put in place like that. And but it was spurred on by action because there seemed to be a shift. And it's unknowable, unseeable. Our government and media outlets will not acknowledge it. They've never acknowledged that there's some kind of global shift. They will explain it away by, well, there's a certain food in this area. There's a certain environmental toxin in this area, or a certain neurotoxin that created a mutation in children in this localized area. But our media will never acknowledge, because it's not part of the narrative. And
which is why they have disappeared.
They have largely disappeared.
Yeah, and been taken over with a more truthful and loving method of spreading news and information. Out. Yeah, we couldn't even see it. I could feel it coming 10 years ago, but I couldn't determine how it would be done. And of course, it's the young ones.
Yeah, 10 years ago, I was just kind of like in a mopey muck about it, knowing that, and we both sort of sensed this too, that there was a challenge on the horizon, and that we were feeling and being affected by it. And I was starting to think, no, this is something about action. And the things that I was doing in my dreams were more about action. I don't know if it was for me. We also were, there was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of reflection and things like that, but we had to move aside because, well, and now we're learning from the youngest of the young. And it's a relief. But I'm very adamant. Even in the last 10 years, I'm 60, and I'm still a voice with them. But I actually am. It's really great. I'm more of a supporter, and I walk alongside them. But wow, they take the lead.
Right. And what you do is, and we do, is we show that as we follow their lead, we change. So even though we're 10 years older, we are becoming more youthful like them.
Oh, I feel that too. I mean, it's just, they've actually helped me with secrets that they have that I'm not sharing with anyone. I will not share with anyone, because it's like,
they learn it themselves.
Yeah. They'll learn it themselves or not. And, I still get the, Scott, why don't you look 60? You look what you did 40. And there's no discussion. There's no discussion anymore. And I simply say, that's not the right question.
Because we changed on the inside long before physical surface, because this is the last part that matters. It's the invisible, what was invisible parts of us that really take the lead. So everything is turned around. The young know more than we do. The invisible parts are far more important than what's going on with my physical body. And so now we're just looking for how to turn things turn things upside down from the old way. That's the way to go.
Yeah. And it's already happening, because, all those covert, invisible things behind the scenes with all of our systems, governments, media, things. It's all we have to do is wait for another viral video of a 10-year-old exposing something, which happens daily. Mm-hmm. And like 10 years ago, we had that whole WikiLeaks thing, and now it's like, how can you cannot imprison a 10-year-old and accuse a 10-year-old the same way that you did, Julian Assange back so long ago. It's such a very interesting twist. I mean, all we have to do is wait and look for evidence every day, because we see that invisible coercion, the invisible predation, is becoming visible every day, and they're holding on by their fingernails. Some folks in power who still believe in those power structures we've seen the violence, we've seen a lot of the effects of predation. It's hard for those in power to be violent against 10-year-old children. They've found there is some supernatural power that just freezes armies, freezes soldiers, freezes police officers. They cannot be They can't be predators.
Well, let's face it, predators are cowards, and cowardice doesn't work with these kids. Or in the new system in the world as it is now. And so all anyone had to do was stand up and expose and present a new way, and the people in power folded because they had all of their ways of forcing and oppressing and taking everything for themselves. None of it worked anymore.
And it's getting to that point. And many years ago, I did have that dream. This was, oh my gosh. So now there's maybe 5 more years, if my dream does come true, of the very new children that will usher us into this new paradigm. And I've shared this dream with many of the 10-year-old children. They seem to already know this already. And when they're going, oh yeah, I've heard that before. We dream that on a daily basis.
God had a dream. Oh,
let's listen. Okay. Yeah, we know. They're like, want to hear my dream? I don't think you do. That's the fun part, and I do see that, and maybe I was just 5 years too slow, because these children have accelerated anymore, and here they are. But that gives me hope, but it's not really a feeling of hope, and it's a feeling of action. I don't need hope anymore.
You have certainty.
It's certainty. It's right in front of me. Who needs hope when you have this? And that's the thing that people are not seeing, that are still holding on by their fingertips. You don't need hope anymore. You don't need self-reflection anymore. You don't need to meditate to get answers anymore. You don't need to center your body and center yourself anymore. I don't even know why that's still taught.
There are people who are so disconnected that's where you start. So if you're already connected, you don't need to continue that practice just because it's part of the old way of getting connected.
Yeah, really, 3-year-olds sit in a lotus position and will speak to you, and they'll tell you about it.
Yeah, or they'll tell you while they're running around the yard.
Yeah, I did that when I was 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I feel like that has progressed farther, and we don't need hope. We need a breakdown. Yeah, we're going to have it. We're having it. We need the collapse, and we need to follow these new children just into the paradigm that's going to happen anyway. It's already happening. It's, and 10 years ago too, it was already happening. We just weren't seeing it.
Well, holding on to the old ways means that you need a breakdown. It needs to be dismantled and disintegrated, so there's nothing you can hold on to. And so if you just let go and go, all right, I'm going this way because this is the new way and this is more effective. There is no need for breakdown. You might have to feel through all of your nostalgia or fear about what the old way taught you. But if you are willing to do that, it's so much easier. And so there are still people who are hanging on and they need to maybe meditate or maybe get smacked around a little bit by a loving universe.
I think one time a kid told me like, "Oh yeah, I learned that lesson when I was hanging on the monkey bars when I was 2, and I needed to fall." And I looked, and this is like a 6-year-old telling me, "I needed to fall. I needed to fall and hurt, twist my ankle, then heal it."
And then get back up on the monkey bars and flip around and land.
Yeah, and or do more than the monkey bars.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they kind of like, oh yeah, I remember like it took me years for them to like convince me to go skydiving. Just years. And they're like, oh, whatever. What's the worst that'll happen? You'll fall, you'll break something, you'll hit really hard. That's good. You can heal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting. So 10 years ago, if I could talk to myself 10 years ago, I would tell myself 10 years ago, Scott, the time for your worry is over. The time for your worry and looking for hope, and it should have been done 10 years ago but you just didn't see it yet because it was changing. And yeah, the breakdown was beautiful because look who was holding the rug and pulling it to topple everything over. These amazing, I'll call them beings. We're always here, but now they're really here.
Yeah.
Anything else, Rita?
Just that the key in what you said about the 3-year-old telling you about falling, it was just a knowing that they could heal. So there's no fear. So much fear is not part of the norm with this new with the youth.
Yeah. When they're all spirits and they're all being and they give themselves spirit nicknames, they acknowledge that there's an invincibility. Well, that's our term. It's not their term. There's an extra. Yeah, they know how to say it. I'm still stuck, but yeah, they're closer to soul level, or they are soul level beings outwardly. And I can grow and I can learn from them. But I'm still being told, oh yeah, I heard about that dream, Scott. I'm humored and allowed to sit in their circles, which is fun. But I know that their future is going to be wonderful, and it is. They've never had the baggage we have. Yeah. It is a wonderful future because they've created a wonderful presence.
Yeah, I like it.
I do too. Thank you.
Thank you.